Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Chris here, and today I'm coming on to film a very special video for me actually. Special because for one, this is my soul deck, and for two, this was requested by someone very special indeed. Um, so this is going to be a walkthrough of the SEERS Tarot by Chris. Okay, guys. So I've got a nice zoomed in table cam for you today. I thought let's take a right good look at the images, and this will be quite handy for when I'm doing walkthroughs from now on. Um, so I suppose first of all, just a very quick chat about the packaging and stuff. So I've got the mass market Hay House edition of this deck. The box is lovely and sturdy. It keeps the cards safe and protected. The book, the medium white book, shall we call this, is really good. What I would say to anyone who has or is thinking about getting this deck is if you go online and search for the Lightseers Tarot, there's actually a website that has all of the content, all of the meanings for all of the cards, and it's got a lot more than what this medium white book does. So there was an indie version of this deck which had a much bigger book. So I think the website has the same content as the bigger, more fuller book. So I would highly recommend that to anyone who has or is thinking about getting this deck because it's just got a lot more information. It gives a lot more on the what you actually see on the cards. Chris Ann describes the card and describes the significance of the depictions and whatnot. So definitely recommend that. I'll what I'll do is I'll put a link to that in the description of the video. So, without further ado, let's get started. So, we've got our fool here, and this is a lovely fool. It's a wee bit different because we don't have the usual familiar. Instead, she has her crystal amplifier in her hand, which acts as her guide. It's nice to see a female presenting, shall we say, fool for a change. And we see her letting herself fall backwards into the void. Um, and it makes me think of a trust exercise. If you've ever done one of these trust exercises, this is what this looks like to me. So she's trusting in the universe and she's letting herself go. She's just kind of letting herself fall back into whatever awaits her. And with the sacred geometry, we see the seed of life depicted here. So absolutely stunning cards, stunning use of color, art. I mean, I think every card in this deck is stunning, so I'll try not to say that each and every time. But yeah, I love this card. Next, we've got the Magician. And it's quite difficult to tell whether the Magician is sitting on the grass or levitating. I think you could see it either way. But I think the cool thing about this card is rather than having like the kind of the wand, the pentacle, etc., we see this energy coming off of the magician's hands, and don't know how well you can actually see it. So you can see the four symbols for the four elements here. So we've got so it looks to be fire, air, water, and earth depicted here. Coming from the energy and the magician's hands, and we see the energy forming some sort of void here, or coming out, indeed coming out from the void. It could be, so this could be the kind of the void, the gateway between the spiritual world and the physical world. This could be, how our standard magician has the as above so below. They act like a kind of a lightning rod for energy. This could be the magician taking the energy from this portal, from this void, and it's that kind of a inspiration, that first spark, that the magician represents, that potential. We have our high priestess. And again, she's absolutely stunning. I love the use of color in this card. I love that her third eye chakra is really energized. Um, you can really get the message of using your intuition. Our two eyes are closed, so sometimes we need to um, look a bit beyond the five senses, look a bit beyond the conscious analysis that we carry out, and we need to trust our instincts. You know, yeah, stunning high priestess, the empress, and we get a real Gaia type vibe from this empress. She's beautiful. She does have the pregnant belly, which I know doesn't work for everyone in an Empress card, but and it doesn't always work for me. But this, we see the Earth, as her pregnant belly. I think is just, yeah, I love it. I think it's stunning. Um, we see the moon here. There's a connection to the kind of lunar energies. Um, yeah, she's beautiful. So she is. Emperor. So we still have the ram's head. We still have that, that link to Aries, that the Aryan energy. I love that we have this kind of a chessboard. If you look at the floor, we've got the kind of chessboard effect. He's holding a chess piece, the king chess piece. Um, it brings in that kind of a very well, I mean, it can bring something new, I suppose, into the meaning of this card. It could make us think, is someone playing games? Is there like a strategic approach that this person is taking? Are they a player, a game player? Um, but I think like the game of chess is compared to the game of life, as it's sometimes called, and it makes you think of like kind of strategy and thinking ahead, and always thinking two steps ahead and keeping things in control and things like that. So brilliant emperor. We have the Hierophant. Um, so the Hierophant is a lovely, lovely card. It looks like a really happy, approachable Hierophant, which is so important. I think. I think for a lot of us, uh, the use of the Pope, or some other kind of religious, uh, religious order to represent this card can be problematic. Doesn't necessarily have to be, but it can be just because um, there's certain orders that have been, I suppose, that have just looked down on us as that this kind of thing that we do. Um, yeah. Anyway, we see this stairway. It looks like a stairway to something greater, something the divine. We're being asked in the Hierophant. We're being asked to believe in something different. So in the first four cards of the Fool's Journey, he's learning how to negotiate the world around about him. He's learning how to, you know, um, how to nurture and how to be nurtured and how to kind of bring order out of the chaos and all that kind of thing. It's all very kind of down to earth, whereas the Hierophant is asking him to have faith. He's asking him to have belief in something greater than himself. Um, and I think we kind of see that represented in the stairway. We also see it on his top. We've got the triple cross. Um, but yeah, this is a really warm and kind of approachable Hierophant card in my view. The Lovers. So unity of opposites, harmony of opposites. We've got an older, what appears to be an older gent, a younger female. The gent is a person of colour. The female appears to be white skinned. Um, you know, the the gent appears to be male. We appear to have like a male and a female. It just brings to mind this kind of harmony of opposites, bringing together opposite forces, and creating something new from that harmony. Out from that harmony comes something new. Um, yeah, a beautiful lover's card. Chariot, quite a a traditional chariot card. We've got the black horse and the white horse. Um, you know, representing the different opposing forces in life. And the chariot represents our endeavor, our goal to bring those forces into tandem, into alignment, in order to drive us forward, drive our chariot forward. You know, take us forward in life, and you really get the kind of the fast moving feel from this card. Strength, absolutely stunning, beautiful strength card. Um, I love that we have the half and half. For me, the lion and the traditional, like the Smith weight strength card, for example, and the Marseille. In most strength cards, we see a person and a lion, some sort of animal, and the animal is being tamed. Um, but for me, at least, that animal is a part of the self. It's not about taming a beast. It's not about exerting force on some outside entity, usually. Um, what the strength card for me is that kind of Leo. Um, it's about the line represents a part of ourself. Okay, it's about knowing your worth. It's about being confident. It's about knowing your strengths and having the knowledge and the wisdom to exert that strength in a way that's appropriate, in a way that drives us forward. Um, we kind of it's nice that we see the line, this half and half kind of idea with the face. Um, we also see the kind of the mercy side to it. So I said it's about using that strength wisely. We see the lamb in front of her. Um, that lamb doesn't look like it's in any danger. It's not scared or anything like that. She doesn't have any intention at the moment to kill it. So she's controlling those animal instincts, the animal self, those instinctual parts of the self, the self. She's controlling her strength. So she is, and so has formed this bond, this relationship with the lamb. Hermit. I always struggle to see. I'm never sure whether the hermit is levitating or whether they're sitting on the kind of a mountainside. Either way, though, I love that, we still get the idea of withdrawing from the outside world, sort of going into some form of isolation, maybe not necessarily physical isolation, but um, you know, going within yourself. So like emotional isolation, psychological isolation, spending some time on yourself. Um, in order to find the way forward. So evaluating what's happened so far in order to light the way onto the next path. And I love that we see the light, but the light seems to be coming from herself rather than from the lantern. The light is coming from within her. The Wheel of Fortune. So we get this idea of well, fortune, luck, and how it can be good or how it can be bad. We've got these different forces, these different energies. We see that represented here, in the light and the dark. She appears to be kind of a balancing on a wheel, which is on a wheel itself, and there's this series of wheels that are all kind of a balancing on each other. You do really get the idea that this can't, she's not going to be able to be there forever. Um, so she's got to make the most of it whilst she is on top of the wheel. We also see the dice around her neck, the dice representing chance and, just something being out with your control, chaos theory. Some things are just greater than us, and outside our control, and I think that's represented really well here. Justice, and if we turn justice upside down, we see that, it appears to be a reflection, but it's a different, what seems to be a different side, or a different person in the reflection than what than what we see here. We've got the sword, we've got the scales, we've got the usual kind of a symbolism. We have this really kind of a peace, these peace vibes from this card, which is, a really nice thing to see. Often when we think justice, we think living within the bigger system. We think of karma and how our actions have consequences, cause and effect. And basically, that quite often the message is, whatever it is that you're doing right now, make sure that you're happy with it, make sure you're at peace with it, because our actions have consequences. Everything you do, you either have to answer for, or there will be a kind of knock-on effect. That's the reality of living within a system, whether it's a legal system, whether it's a contract, whether it's natural laws. If you drop something, it's going to fall in, well, depends what it is, I suppose, and break. You drop an egg, it falls and breaks. Um, that's that's the law of gravity. That's the way that living within that, that natural system. That's how that works. So cause and effect, cause and effect, cause and effect, and just always think about the further down consequences of your actions and learn from the past, learn from how things have gone. And that's a kind of lesson that I feel comes up time after time in the tarot that repeats itself. The Hanged Man, or the Hanged Woman as we have here, Hanged One, Hanged Person. So she's reversed, she's upside down, she's taking a different point of view. We have the runes here, which is a nod to Odin. So Odin hung from the oh gosh, what's the name of the tree? I forget now. But hung from the tree for, was it 12 days? Or am I saying 12 just because the hangman's number 12? Odin hung from this tree, sacrificed one of his eyes in order to discover the runes, in order to gain new enlightenment, new wisdom. So there's an element of sacrifice that comes with this card. There's an element of taking a different perspective, pushing yourself to the limits as well. Okay. Quite often it's when we're really kind of pushed to the brink that's when we discover ourselves. That's when we become enlightenment. That's when we discover new things. What's the expression? Where I stumble, there lies my treasure. Is it Joseph Campbell? And that is actually from the full entry in the Marielle Tarot Guidebook. So it's when we're in difficulty, when we push ourselves, that's, quite often that is what is needed in order to discover, in order to become enlightened. Death and rebirth. So I love that we see this bright new reality, this bright new world underneath Death's cowl, underneath the hood of Death. I love that it's red and not black for a change. We have the kind of the scythe represented in these kind of dark energies here. Yeah, this is a stunning card. It's an amazing way to pick that message. Temperance, a rather handsome temperance card. We see temperance here with the sun in one hand and the moon in the other. So, I mean, to be very general, again, it's like balancing different energies, different aspects of life, balancing them, finding the balance that's right for you. The moon can represent, you know, passive, um, dark elements, maybe. The sun, light elements, active elements. The moon going within, the sun going out with. Um, so being at peace within about what's happening in your kind of a external outside environment, and just having the two match up. Am I saying what I say there? But yeah, um, at its core, it's temperance, moderation. It's finding the balance that's right for you, um, and balancing those different aspects of life. Um, yeah, the devil. So in our devil, we see this kind of a person there, and we see our devil, who's again a very handsome devil. He's got some serious coronavirus lockdown here going on. He seems to be holding on to this person by strings like a puppet. Um, so yeah, it's just that it makes you think of, what those dependencies, those reliances, um, desire. At its absolute core, the devil is about desire. Desire can be such a strong, strong motivator, um, both in a positive and a negative way. Um, from a positive point of view, that desire, following that, if you think of the chariot and the black horses are desires, are carnal desires, and the white horses, our regard for the greater good and our regard for social responsibility, you know. Um, the black horse could be the selfish part of ourselves, the white horse, the selfless part of ourselves. And the devil, following that black horse, letting that take some control. Sometimes that can lead to breakthroughs, that can lead us to achieve great things, things that could never otherwise have been achieved unless we had that desire to do that. Also, of course, that our desires can lead us to we can lose control, and we can almost become a slave to that desire. And that's kind of what we see represented here. The devil's obviously taking over, he's taking control of this person, and I mean, you can look and you can see how it's obviously making them quite distressed. They look as though they're not in the best place. And I suppose that it's a bit of a warning about what can happen um, if you become a slave to your desires, and um, you let some outside force become the controlling factor. Tower. So we have the lightning. We don't have a man-made, a man-built tower. Um, we have what appears to be some sort of den, um, and the tower's bringing it down. So you really kind of get the idea of divine intervention. Um, Sometimes we have absolutely no control over it. It's time for that tower to come down. Things come to an abrupt end. It can be really, really difficult, the tower moments, so they can. Um, and they teach us a lot, from a, you know, it can be ultimately it can be a good thing for us, but at the same time it can be a really kind of difficult and bad time for us. Um, in the end, I think the lesson of the tower is, well, if we've got strong foundations, then they'll stay. You know, if we've built a strong foundation, then, you know, it'll survive. We can salvage, you know, there will be parts of the wreckage that can be salvaged, that we can take forward, but there are going to have to be some elements that are left behind. The star. The star is that hope. It's that healing energy. It's that comes after those difficult tower moments. You know, it just gives us that guidance, that something to follow when we feel at our lowest. It's just that kind of guiding light. And we really kind of see that depicted here. She's kind of tethered the star with this string. Um, so yeah, can often be about, you know, believing in looking to something greater. Um, you know, looking to something outside yourself for guidance. Can be the message of the star. Kind of like if you think about what we're doing with like astrology, you know, looking to the stars, we're looking for something, some greater entity that's outside us that we have no control over, and looking to see what guidance it can give us, like an objective, so looking at an objective influence, and you know, the guidance that that can offer. The moon. Oops. So we have you know, the two canines, the dog and the wolf. It's not clear at the moment which one is which. Um, you know, the moon can be a really kind of deceptive light. It can be quite difficult to, when we're in that lunar energy, it can be quite difficult to know which way is up and which way is down. It can really throw us. And I think that's what's happened to our figure here. She's got a fright because she doesn't, you know, she's in that strange, unusual zone. Fear, you know, the unconscious mind is what's represented by the fool, and that can be quite a difficult place to be. It can really kind of bring our fears alive. So she looks and she sees the two dogs and she doesn't know, you know, which one's safe, which one's wild, feral, which, you know, in real life terms, like which path do I take, which way do I go? I don't know what I'm doing here. I've no idea. You know, it's that kind of a feeling. You know, um, if you've ever kind of been out wandering about town or something like that, and then you found yourself lost, not knowing where you are, and you get that moment of panic. You know, the panic takes you, and you're like, oh, I don't know what to go. I don't know if I go here. If I go here, I might be going the wrong way, and I might end up further away than what I need to be. That kind of a thing. And sometimes that fear can really stop us in our tracks, you know. And she's sinking, she's letting the fear sink her. Um, and she's struggling and struggling, but I'm taking this from the, you know, if you look on the website that Chris Ann says all this, she needs to stop. She needs to stop struggling, stop fighting against it, stop trying to change the unchangeable, accept the reality for what it is. Once you can do that, and I say that's so much easier said than done in a lot of situations, but once that, you know, you can do that, once she can do that, once she stops struggling, the buoyancy is going to lift her and it's going to take her to the surface, you know. And I think in a lot of situations that do grip us in that way, it is about, you know, stop struggling against it, um, and almost when we can accept the situation for what it is and not try and change it, or at least not try and change the elements of it that we have no control over, that we can't change, then that frees our minds, eases our minds a bit, and lets us concentrate on the things that we do have control over. Okay? So in the example that I used, okay, stop panicking. let's ask somebody where I am, excuse me, can you tell me the way to whatever place? Um, so yeah, anyway, sorry, I went on a bit there. The sun, and just regarding the moon as well, once you've got that control, you know, once you've accepted the situation for what it is, once you've started to take control of your fears rather than let them take control of you, that lunar energy, that moon energy becomes a powerful asset. That connection to your unconscious, that becomes a powerful tool, and something that you can go forward and use. The sun, um, where the moon was a deceptive light, or could be a conceptive light. Wow, deceptive light. The sun is the light of truth. It shines the truth on everything. It shows everything up for what it is. It represents the conscious, the familiar, the joy. Um, it dispels fear. It heals the sun. If we think about our own sun, like the literal sun in the sky, we get vitamin D from it. It has healing properties both for mental well-being and for physical well-being. Um, and yeah, it just represents that kind of fulfillment, that joy, that happiness that the sun brings. Judgment. Oops. So we see here she's letting go of something. Okay. Um, Judgment. Quite often when we say the word judgment, just like when we mention the word judgment, and I was going to say in real life, this is real life too, obviously, but you know what I mean, like outside when we're not talking about tarot judgment, when we just say the word judgment, we think about, people, the judgment that other people put on people, people being judged, that kind of a thing. And that does link in to this card, but quite often, I think originally where it comes from is it represents like the final judgment. So after, the souls of the dead rising, being judged, you were a good person, you go to heaven. You weren't a good person, you go to that other place, or whatever, that whatever your particular belief system is. I think in the Egyptian system, it's the weighing of the heart against the feather, etc. So that is the final judgment. Um, but I think it represents that being judged is it's like closure. It allows us to let go of the past and move on, draw a line under everything that we're perhaps ashamed of, that, draw a line under the things that still haunt us, that we still think about time after time, and just moving on free of that judgment. Now, quite often with judgment, it's talking about the judgment that we put on ourselves. It's not so, I think most of us are our own worst critics, our own worst judges. And I feel more often than not when this comes up in a reading, it's talking about how you judge yourself, and you know encouraging the questioner, or you, if you are if you're reading for yourself, it's about moving on from those things, doing the work that's needed, because it's not just about, right, okay, well, I did that such and such a bad thing, let's just forget that now and move on. If there's work to be done, then do the work, and do it in such a way, whether it's repentance, whether there's something that whatever it is, to make amends, or if there's stuff to be learned, if there's learnings to be taken from it, do the work, and then draw a line under it and move on free from it. And then once we do, the world, and it's hard to put into words what the world means, because it's like the ultimate fulfillment, it's the completion of the cycle. We see the seed of life again, but around it we see the Ouroboros. So it's the kind of a constant, the everlasting cycle. The Ouroboros is the snake that eats its own tail. It's constantly destroying and at the same time replenishing itself. Um, kind of puts us in mind of the lemniscate, the infinity sign. Um, and yeah, this is just like the ultimate joy, the ultimate fulfillment. In many ways, you could look at it as being the best card in the pack, if you want to put it that way. Um, but it's hard to describe the feelings that come with this card. Um, I think it's kind of like it goes in hand with the unknowability, or what one might refer to as the unknowability of God. Um, we can't possibly have any concept over um, what deity is, and I think at the same time we can say what we think, what we feel, we can theorize, but in terms of hard evidence and being able to kind of put it down in words, I think it's difficult to really be totally sure about any of these things. And I think there's a parallel there to be drawn between that and between the meaning, the fulfillment, you know, I am actually struggling to put it into words, just to find a word strong enough to say what I want to say. But all of the positivity, positive feelings that come with this world card. So those are the majors. And we'll now look at the minor arcana cards. Okay, guys, so the suit of wands, first of all, you probably notice it's changed a bit. I'm now a fair bit later on than when I stopped doing the majors. So it's a wee bit of a time lapse. Ace of Wands. We've got this fire being lit. It's like the spark, the idea, the inspiration that we associate with the Ace of Wands. I really kind of enjoy this, so I do. We really get that element of fire. We get the idea of an idea. Inspiration. It's happening up in the mind. Um, yeah, works for me. I think it's beautiful. Oh, I've got my two and my three mixed up. Oops. Two of Wands. Again, amazing image. I really, really like this. I've got a lot of time for this because she's not actively doing something, which is important for me for a two. A two is like a planning, it's like a germination stage. So it's like a finding your feet, getting to know your tools, planning the journey ahead. It's that kind of thing. For me in the two, there's not a lot happening. There's maybe some practice. There's an element of practice in the two, but there's not a lot of real action happening. Um, and that's what we see here. We see her looking out the window, making plans. She's got the globe here. She's planning where she's going to journey to, all that kind of thing. So love this too. Then in the three, this is when the Empress energy is injected in, creation, physical creation. This is when things actually come into being. And we see someone setting out on their journey. They've got their surfboard. They're going to step out and get into those waves. Things are about to things are about to happen. Shit's about to get real. And again, like continuing with the fire element, which is really nice. The Four of Wands. Okay, so there's a celebration happening. We get that from it. Um, something's been achieved. It's not like a castle. It's not a full house or anything. We've got a tent. So we've achieved something. We've made a start, and we've got achievement. We've got that validation. We've got that kind of right. Okay, I can do this. We're happy about it. We're celebrating, but there's still work to be done. The Five. So we really kind of get this idea of, well, you could say conflict, you could say like this person appears to be kind of knocking this person off to get higher. You know, they're maybe in competition with each other to reach for this flame. They're not really working together. Everyone seems to be, it seems to be a very much every person for themselves type dynamic here. Perfect Five of Wands. We've got our Six of Wands. We've got the Victory Wreath. We've got the kind of, you know, the celebratory hands up. You know, the spotlight is on them. They're being celebrated. We see in the background, we see these hands. You can just make them out if I hold it closer. I'll maybe need to fix the zoom on my camera, which means you're all going. In fact, what I'll do is I'll pause. And there we go, unpause. I was just kind of watching and waiting for it to stop wobbling. Um, so if I kind of hold it close there, you can see the hands. You know, these are all the people praising her. She's being praised. She's been energized by the praise. They're being energized by her achievements. They're living vicariously through her. You know, everyone's happy. Seven of Wands. So, you know, there's all these kind of wands coming at her, all this, you know, conflict. Would you say conflict for the Seven of Wands? Potentially. Um, I think it's the idea of kind of all these forces being against you, but you're above it all. You know, she's in her bubble. She's safe from it. You know, nothing can touch her. She's untouchable. She's got the high ground. You can see that she's got this kind of yoga stance, very kind of calm. Her solar plexus chakra is energized. Okay, so that's all to do with your identity, your sense of self. So she is confident in herself, and you know nothing can touch her. Essentially, we've got the eight, and you know traditional Eight of Wands, but it just has this different dynamic where we feel like we're actually riding that energy. We feel as though we're sitting on this wand here and we're moving forward, and you can really get the speed from you know the way it's been drawn. You get the speed, you get the force. Stunning, stunning Eight of Wands. I love the colors as well. You know. The nine. So there's, you know, that this person's been through a lot. We're high energy here, high fire. You know, a lot has happened to them. They've been through the mill, um, but they're standing there that in defence of their, you know, whatever it is that they've built. Um, they're ready to fight off any enemies, essentially. And it's they're almost at the, you know, they're almost at the completion of their journey. And we have the 10. And you do, I mean, when you look at the, what is this, a bison? I'm not really sure what animal this is, but when you look at it and all of the load that it's carrying, you get the usual kind of 10 of wands kind of carrying all this burden type feeling. But also, if you think about tens, they are like kind of the renewal of the cycle. Quite often with the 10, something will come to an end and something else will come to a start. Now, that could mean that whatever the project, whatever the fire is, it stops, you know, you stop and you move on. But equally, it can be more about the passing the torch on, you know. You've achieved your goal and now you're going to teach someone else. You know, you're going to be a mentor for someone else. You're going to light the way for, you know, the next person to come along and learn from you. And I think that both positive and the negative elements of the Ten of Wands are demonstrated beautifully here. We've got our Page of Wands, and when you read what Chris Ann says in the book, it's like every time she throws her wand up, a new idea. She has a new idea. The Page of Wands is the kind of adventure spirit. You know, all these kind of new ideas, new enthusiasm, all of that kind of thing. They do need a bit of guidance in order to kind of get to see the new ideas through to an actual project, to an actual thing. That's where they need their fellow courts. But uh, yeah, you can really kind of get the sense of enthusiasm and joy from this Page of Wands. The Knight. Um, so we have the horse up on all fours in the background, which is what I tend to think about when I think Knight of Wands, from my Smithwaite Knight of Wands, all this energy being expelled, and they've got lots of energy to burn, and they're burning a lot of energy. There's maybe sometimes a question as to, how productively that energy is being used. Um, but yeah, there's lots of fire in them, and I mean, when you can take that out and look at this person and think of the positive aspects of this card, this person is, they're dancing to the beat of their own drum. They're confident, full of action, self-confidence, all of that kind of thing. Really kind of radiant energy that we get off this person. For our Queen of Wands, um, she's got both water and fire. Um, she can stand the heat. She can stand to be in the limelight. Really kind of strong Leo energy in the Queen of Wands. I think is kind of how I see the Queen of Wands and how I read the Queen of Wands. Someone who, is very self-confident, very kind of celebrity of the tarot-esque, um, inspires people, you know, when they walk into a room, everyone's eyes turn. When they speak, everyone listens. It's that really kind of encapsulating energy. Is that the right word? And our King of Wands. So we get this kind of quiet but strong confidence from this card, I think. Um, you know, he knows what he's doing. You've got the lion here, which again suggests Leo energy, self-confidence, self-assurance. They know their worth, they know what they're good at, and by extension, they know what they're not good at. Um, Kings for me are, like social responsibility. I tend to link them to the element of air. And that kind of a very organizational, looking at the bigger picture, keeping up the structure kind of a thing. And the King of Wands, the element of his social responsibility is what keeps him on his throne, but then the element of fire, he wants to be involved, he wants to get his hands dirty. And it's nice that we see him standing and not seated on a throne. So that's the element of wands. The suit of wands, I had to think there. The Ace of Swords. And we have this staircase, this kind of infinite staircase going into the person's mind, and we have the light shining out. This is a beautiful Ace of Swords, the new ideas, the new mindset, the new kind of just the strength of will, the new outlook on the situation. We have in the background, so we've got like the Tree of Life, we've got the Lemniscate, all these kind of symbols. So yeah, lovely card. So the Two of Wands, we get the kind of typical blindfolded figure, but instead of two swords. But so quite often the swords are represented by birds, ravens, I think, or crows. In this deck, so we've got the two birds, both at the person, two different being stuck between two different mindsets, two different points of view, two conflicting points of view more often than not. See the kind of tattoos shows the kind of a what is it? It shows a balance and scales or something like that, or a seesaw, is it? I'm not sure. Um, but yeah, just this idea of being trapped between two different points of view. Now, it might be inner conflict, it might be within yourself that you're struggling, you're toing and froing between, should I do this, should I do that? It might be external, it might be two different, literally two people that are at you, I want it this way, no, I want it that way, and you're like having to be this kind of central mediating force in the middle. Three of Swords, and you really, really get this strong kind of pain from this card. You get the heartache element of the Three of Swords. Um, this heart is broken. Looks like it's been stitched back together. You've got all these kind of tendrils, is that the right word? Coming out, and she seems to be kind of trapped by it. You can kind of off in the distance see the three birds, and then she's got the tattoo of three swords on her arm, and she looks as though she's screaming out in pain. The landscape is dull. It's quite bleak. Really, really painful card. Which is good if that's how you read the Three of Swords. Now, the Three of Swords at its core is about growth of the intellect, growth of the mind, which doesn't always necessarily need to mean pain. There's a saying that I heard recently, or a quote, that pain is the shattering of the. Oh gosh, let me get it right. Pain is the shattering of the case that encloses understanding. I think that's it. So it's this idea of finding out something, harsh truths, painful truths, is what we see depicted here. But you know, it could equally be about like kind of gathering new information, studying, finding out new things. Don't think it always has to lead to pain. Um, so if you don't necessarily read the pain element of this card all the time, then this could be problematic potentially. Especially if you're reading for other people and you put this down and you say, all right, okay, well, I can see you studying for your exams and are looking and are saying, really? But Four of Swords, we get the element of rest, taking a break from the battle, from the conflict, from the pain. Um, just, at its core, again, that's apparently my favourite phrase today. Um, so fours are stability, it's the stabilizing force. It's the achieving something, and getting that validation. It's the emperor energy. It's the bringing order from the conflict, from the chaos, and the swords being the suit of the mind. So stability of the mind essentially is what we're looking at. Um, so just that taking that rest in order to kind of just quiet your mind, and calm yourself, and just feel better about the situation in general, I guess. But it's not over, it's only the four, so there's still further to go. The five is kind of in ways the opposite to the four. It's instability, it's conflict, it's change leading to instability. And this is, generally read as the kind of defeat card. So this guy looks, he's not too happy. In fact, if we look closer and see what's happening in the background, you can see there's bloodshed. We can see somebody's in the background, but not too sure what they're doing. But this guy does look kind of defeated. So I think maybe this. So usually when we see the Five of Swords, I'm thinking again of this Mythweight Five of Swords. The person at the forefront of the card is the victor. He's the one who's won all the swords. He's the one who's celebrating, and then you get the people in the background are the defeated. It's normally two defeated figures, I think. In this case, we're seeing it from the defeated person's point of view. It looks like, and the person who's won the battle but lost the battle of the ego. They're in the background celebrating. Is how it kind of looks to me. But either way, there's been a conflict, there's been a fight, and there's winners and losers, and it sucks to be the loser, but at the same time, we need to look at what we're actually getting out of these things, and whether we are actually being productive, I guess, is how I kind of see the Five of Swords a lot of the time. Six of Swords, so six is a card of kind of harmonizing, after that period of conflict, after that period of difficulty, we get that harmony back. And we often see it as this journey through these waters. So very emotional card, lots of water in it a lot of the time. And it's the kind of the move into calmer waters. So move into a calmer headspace, I think, um, is how I often read the Six of Swords. The Seven, I always kind of chuckle at this because this wee bird here looks really like outraged, affronted. Um, this person, we get the usual kind of if you read this card as deception or theft, theft of intellectual property, maybe, you can get those vibes from it. I think for me, the seven is a problem solving card. It's that kind of growth from stability. So quite often it is a painful card because it's, when you've achieved that stability and that harmony, it can be difficult to push yourself out of that, to take yourself out of your comfort zone. But it's often needed for growth. So problem solving, and because this is a card of the mind as well, quite often it's about doing things differently. It's about finding an alternative solution. The Seven of Swords. Uh, so yeah, the Eight. So I love this card because she's looking in the mirror and what she's seeing is that she's tied up. She's um she's trapped. Uh, Doing my usual. I know it in my head, but I can't quite get the words to come out. But yeah, it's as if she feels trapped. She feels as though she's been captured by her own thoughts. So the birds or the swords, they represent the thoughts, the mind, the intellect, the ego. Um, and she feels as though she's stuck. But if you look actually at her, it's not. It's just her perception. The Nine. So we get the kind of the usual, um, the sadness, the negative feeling from this card. Um, all of the kind of the thoughts and the negativity and the pain and everything that's happening. The very high mental energy. We get that from all of the birds. We do see that perhaps not everything is as it seems. Um, we might be, because we get ourselves into a certain state, we might be kind of inventing problems where there aren't actually any. But there are, of course, also some very real issues that need to be dealt with, and it can be painful to deal with those. But it's something that we need to work through. This is also, we see the pillow here, and this can also be associated with things like nightmares, and you know, uh, mental well-being and things like that. Ten of Swords. So this is a beautiful card. We see that, she's got up and she's walking away. So the tens, like I said, that's the renewal of the cycle. It's starting over again. Um, she's moving on into a new dawn. We see the skies are starting to clear. If we compare the skies here to the sky, there's a new sun coming up, and she's looking forward to it. She's walking towards it, taking all of the learnings, from all of the pain that she's been through before, and she's putting that behind her, and she's taking a new start. I love this page of swords because we see her sword on the ground, but she's not using it like a sword. She's using it in a nuanced, a completely different, wacky, if I can use that word, a completely different way. Um, Innovative, I think, is the word I want to use. She's got the book. She's a studier. The light bulb represents ideas. And we see the kind of the birds represent maybe messages or thoughts flying about her. So pretty cool card. See the the high energy, the high speed of our Knight of Swords here. He's not stopping to wait. He's just moving from place to place. His weapon, as he's changed out his sword for a crossbow because it's more practical, it's quicker, it's easier to use, it's more effective. It's a more effective weapon, and that's it's, he's an intellectual person. So it's important that everything's efficient and works well and stuff. We've got the Queen of Swords. Um, so we see the element of air is represented on the flag. She's looking up and out. We get this real sense of kind of a intelligence of power from our Queen of Swords here. She looks comfortable, but she looks as though she's kind of ready to move off at any time. And yeah, and our King of Swords. And we see lots of kind of creatures of the sky represented here. We see the dragonfly. I think we see this looks like a dragon or a wyvern in the background here. We see the owl, and then we see, of course, our crow or raven. So, all representing intelligence, especially the owl. The owl's a sign of Athena, the goddess of wisdom. So wisdom, intelligence, his tools, his intellect, and he's ready to kind of use it at any given time. So those are the swords, and we're on to the cups. So the Ace of Cups, beautiful Ace of Cups. We see like a heart in the cup, so representing the matters of the heart, the emotions, connections with other people, emotional connections to the things that we're doing and the things that matter to us. Stunning Two of Cups. We've got they're both bringing their own energy, but you see that it's kind of a intermingling and creating something new, something otherwise unobtainable. The Three of Cups. So the three are the three friends, the three maidens, um, the three girls here. They look like good friends. They've built a strong bond. And remember, growth. Threes are growth, and nurturing and growth. So growth of these kind of emotional connections. Forming and solidifying these connections through physical action. Sometimes. So they're having an experience together. They're looking at the constellation in the sky. There might be some sort of ritual. I think there's the Triskele tattoo here. Um, so yeah, spending time together. Four of Cups. So stabilizing the emotions, which can be a good thing, but remember water is meant to be in liquid form. So when we stabilize it, we get ice, it becomes cold, which can lead to what we see depicted here, which is becoming quite turned off from, that connection. That connection can become stagnant, and sometimes it can stop us from actually seeing the magic in life. It can stop us from seeing the rainbow. She's fed up, she's scunnered, she's too busy looking over this way to see all of the amazing things that are happening. Five of Cups. So this is an interesting Five of Cups because you don't quite get the same. This to me is a card of it's instability of the heart, the emotional connections. This is a sadness card. Usually it's a grieving card. It's a card of working through hard emotions, difficult, having a difficult time emotionally and um, working through that. Uh, we do see like kind of these cups are empty. This cup, the contents seem to be pouring out into this void, and she's concerned with that and not seeing the cup that's full behind her. So we do get those, the usual, um, the usual connotations from it, and we can pull all of that usual stuff. But it's just she doesn't look all that concerned. At least she doesn't to me. She just looks a bit like meh. Six of Cups. So it looks as though they're thinking back to when they were young. Um, we really get the nostalgia feels from this card. Uh, the Six of Cups for me is a card about, harmonizing your emotions. It's about coming through a difficult time and finding those things that make you feel happy, finding those the small things that make you feel joy. And sometimes that is looking back and taking that and having that kind of a emotional system reboot, looking back on the happier times in life. But at the same time, in the same time, sometimes it's looking forwards. Who's to say that we're not? This isn't, looking to the future, and thinking about all the potential and the positive things that can still happen. Seven of Cups. So not really sure what's happening. Like he can't see the contents of the cups. He can't see because they're all upturned. So it's like one of those games where you're trying to find, the ball or whatever it is that's under the cups. He's uncertain, and that's causing him to falter. There's choices to be made. You can see that here as well. Kind of a snakes and ladders as well. So, you could turn over one cup and climb a ladder, or you could turn over another cup and go down with the snake. So it's really, it depends on your luck, I suppose. The Eight of Cups. She's going off on her journey. There's a new sunrise. She's going off to, to find what's missing. The Nine, you can really kind of just see the way she's jumping up. You can get the pure joy from her here. So happiness, like cup runneth over type feels. And then 10, the family card, again passing it down, creating that safe space for your family. Page of Cups. So this is supposed to represent him thinking about his future self, dreaming about his future. Um, just looks to me like, I don't know, he's in a dream, his head's in the clouds, pigs are flying. Um, yeah, have our Knight of Cups. Um, very handsome Knight of Cups. Knight of Cups is, knights are people of action. It's that fire element they're associated with. So the worker bees of the suits. So they are. In terms of cups, we're talking connections, we're talking emotional connections. So your Knight of Cups are going to be very kind of a charming, um, very much sociable people, ready to engage. And we see him, it looks as though he's on a date, um, picnic, romantic type person. Queen of Cups, and we see that she's submerged in water. She's the water of water. She's all about the water. So she is so very kind of a powerful, emotional person. So she is. She has um, a really kind of a fine-tuned control over her own emotions, connection to the unconscious as well, because quite often water is talking about our spirituality, our connection to unconscious. So kind of like a what do I want to say? So not higher up, but a kind of a lower down, I guess, high priestess, a sort of a less, I can't think of the phrase that I'm trying to say, which is really frustrating. But you know what I'm saying. King of Cups, also, sitting surrounded by his element. He's the negotiator. Um, King of Cups, again, that social responsibility, that air element, that maintenance of the kingdom, making sure the kingdom stays stable. And we're talking about the kingdom of emotions here. So negotiating, the diplomat, is always ready to kind of solve an argument. It can sometimes be unpopular because he can be the type of person that will try and keep everyone happy, or that will do what's absolutely fair. So sometimes someone's not going to be happy with the result, that kind of a thing. And talking about, matters of the heart, things that matter to people. Um, okay, and we're on to the suit of pentacles. So we've got our ace. So we get that kind of the seed. It seems to be kind of growing roots here. So we get that kind of that new seed potential type energy from this. Two of Pentacles. Um, so balancing your physical world with your emotional world. So this looks like a kind of a cosmic entity. So there's this connection between the spiritual and the physical. So I was saying it before, I think with maybe the High Priestess, or with one of the other cards anyway. It's like kind of or maybe Temperance actually. It's that balance between your kind of a physical, material world and the spiritual. Because remember, the High Priestess, she, which is the two. So we're talking two of Pentacles, and twos come from the High Priestess. So she sits in that void between the spiritual world and the physical world. The Boaz and the Yin, the masculine, the feminine, the passive, active. You know, she sits between all opposites essentially. So this is the physical. We're in the Pentacles, which is the earth, the physical material realm now. So we're talking about balancing the kind of physical aspects of life with the spiritual. Three of Pentacles. So growth of something, working together in order to achieve a common goal. And we really kind of get that from this card. The four. So she's clinging on to her purse, she's clinging on to her material possessions, she's scared to lose them. She's looking at the kind of a poor people in the poor village behind her, and she doesn't want to end up like that. And it causes her to cling tightly onto what she's got, perhaps too tightly. The five, so that you can really get the distress from this. The feeling of loss, the feeling of being shut out. But if we look, the key is in the corner. She does have the power to her own salvation. It's just about looking up and being willing to put that key in the door, I think. Six of Pentacles, so balance. We see something being handed from one person to another, so balancing of material resources, and which is why we often see this as charity. Remember though, with the sixes, with harmony, that lover's energy, both are contributing something usually. Or in my opinion, both should be contributing something to the other. So it's not just about, one side giving something. To me, there should be a kind of a meet in the middle. There should be a harmony there. Um, Seven of Pentacles. So, assessing your assets, is it time to harvest that growth? And you can see he's kind of he's growing his plant. and he's looking at his achievement. Is it time to kind of uproot it and perhaps move it into a bigger pot or a bigger plot? 8. So really kind of a productive. We can see all of the work that she's got done. She's got this green candle here. Um, Again, if you look at the compare it to the 8 of Wands, we get this kind of a real fast movement aspect of the card. Oh, I had to stop and sneeze there. 9 of Pentacles. So we get this feeling of affluence, of being well off, but we have the bird there to show that it's taking discipline, it's taking commitment to get to where she is. But she's now able to kind of enjoy the fruits of her labour. She's been rewarded for her hard work. And then we have the 10, which is another kind of a family card. But it's talking about being able to enjoy the material aspects of life, and being providing for your family, I suppose. Page of Pentacles. So our Page of Pentacles for me normally, pages are all students in my eyes. Pentacles, very kind of a physical, really wanting to kind of get in and amongst things and learn to see how they work and be able to kind of manipulate the world around about them. That's what they want to learn to do. It's how to kind of use their hands and get in and amongst things. We've got our Knight. This was always a funny card for me because it does kind of look as though he's dropped all of these, which is kind of the opposite of the Knight of Pentacles. The Knight of Pentacles is very sensible about their possessions and about their finances and stuff. They're very careful. Every decision they make, they've thought it through, and for that reason, they can be quite slow moving. Stunning Queen of Pentacles. We see her in and amongst her element, and she's in her garden, she's in nature, she's well off, she's enjoying, the what she's been able to kind of provide for herself. And we just get this real kind of this mother energy from her. I think that's protective, powerful mother energy. And our King. So wise old king, with his dog. Dog looks quite protective over him actually, so he's well protected. He's sitting in his library, so he's very kind of well established. He knows his stuff. He knows how to kind of look after his family, look after his finances, look after his kingdom, and maintain the stability of everything around about him. Okay, so that's the Lightseers Tarot. That is my soul deck. This is my, the deck that I feel that I'm best with, I'm most comfortable with. Every time I read with it, it always has something to say to me. I won't do an interview spread because, well, I've been working with it for over a year now, so I don't feel as I need to interview it. I feel as though it'd be a bit odd. I'll maybe pull a wee card though. Pull a card for everyone for just in general. I was going to say for the upcoming weekend, but depending on when we're watching this, it might not be an upcoming weekend. I'll get the Queen of Swords. So, thinking about everything that we're doing, thinking about cause and effect. Okay, so the Queen she's got the water, so she's got the emotional element to her. Very kind of she can have a very kind of soft, sympathetic side, but at the same time, she's got that air. She's a sword suit. Her weapon is her intellect. Very kind of intelligent. She would be. She's a teacher. Essentially, she is a teacher. She will be able to teach you to do anything that you want. Um, if you're willing to put in the work and learn, all right, she probably doesn't have much time for bullshitters. She probably doesn't have much time for someone who doesn't want to put in the work, for someone who perhaps doesn't take responsibility for their choices. But you know, other than that, an absolute force to be reckoned with. Um, so perhaps that's an energy that we can, we can embody and we can take on throughout the rest of the day or the rest of the week, whatever, whatever works for you. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I hope that you've enjoyed this. Until next time, I shall speak to you soon. Bye.